There was no question about taking on the role, honestly. Like, as soon as Wes said, "I'm writing something and will you be available at this time?" I said, yes, whatever it is. And then reading it, I mean, it was so fun to discover, first of all, the sort of whole world and kind of movie that it is, this sort of like romp and this adventure, this sort of episodic adventure of these characters, you know, traversing this country. And the character just had so much fun stuff to do. It was just the greatest gift, really. The story is of Zsa Corda, who's the, you know, the I don't know if he's the hero, he's the protagonist, he's almost an antagonist, but he's this magnate in 1950s Phoenicia in Europe, and I mean, a lot of the fun of the movie, for me, comes from just seeing his opulence that he lives, you know, his wealth, and the world that he is in, the sphere that he is in, and the sort of freedom and control that he has over everything. And the story is following him trying to pull together this scheme that he's been plotting, which is a very involved, comprehensive scheme involving dams and railways through mountains, and how to make it profitable and not have it collapse in on itself. Bjorn is brought in because Zsa always keeps a tutor on hand. He's a man of like insatiable knowledge appetite, and he's always got a tutor teaching him about, you know, like engineering or chemistry or what have you, or in my case, insects. He wants to learn about insects. So he's brought Bjorn in as the on-hand tutor, and as the situation escalates, Bjorn's duties start to grow, and he takes on a more important role in the administration. With the bugs was great. Each one was a learning experience for me. Wes got me, as a starting gift for the movie, a amazing book by this famous French bug guy called Fabry. I think the book is called The World of Bugs or something, and it was really fascinating. I got really into it actually really fast, like just sitting and getting ready in the morning, reading about like sacred beetles, which are fascinating, and praying mantises. And actually, as I read about a praying mantis in the book before working with them, and I learned that if they do kind of sink their hooks into you, you have to kill it to get it off. Like, they just won't release. So when I was working with the praying mantis, I was very, very worried about that, for my sake and for his sake. I didn't want to feel it, and I didn't want him to have to die. But everything went great. Watching Benicio play Zsa was so much fun, and I love him in this character in the movie too, which I knew I would when we were working on it, because he brings so much charm and sweetness to this character, who's on the page is sort of very, sort of a scoundrel, and very untrustworthy in his daughter's eyes, and like a person of very low moral standards. But in Benicio's hands, he's a very sympathetic guy, and actually he's just a very misunderstood guy, and he has his reasons for all the ways that he's operated in his life and in the world. And so it was just nice seeing Benicio infuse every moment of this guy, even when he's being sort of, you know, strong-handed with his children, brings so much tenderness to it underneath. You just always feel a lot of love for this character, and yeah, I find it to be a very moving character and performance. I really loved doing the quicksand with Benicio, because he had to go in there first and figure out how to navigate this stuff, and then I go in, and then we have to be wearing it for the next sort of 5 scenes of the movie, just caked with this like mud. That was a lot of fun. It's fun to kind of suffer through things like that with another actor. You get kind of all this slop on you in the morning, and you feel some solidarity in that. Mia Threppleton plays Liesel. It was amazing watching her do this. I was really the whole time thinking, wow, she's going to be great in this movie, and she is. It's such a nice balance, I think, between her and Benicio. They're bringing such different kind of feeling to this movie and creating this really sweet balance. And I love the moments where you can sort of see him reflected in her. You can kind of feel that she's his daughter, just through little moments of instinct that she shows. It's very fun to watch Wes work because he's such a captain on the set with everybody. I mean, he has, his crew is sort of this like bespoke crew that he's been, cultivating for however, 30 years or something. So there are a lot of people that really become like lifers in his world, and it's amazing watching their dynamic and their shorthands. And Wes is very involved in every aspect of the set. Like everything is run even in a very specific. I feel like he's spent sort of as much energy building the machine of production as he has put into the actual results of the movies. It feels like a very carefully created environment, and so it's great to work in, and you sort of function differently in it than on any other set. I've never sort of had an experience as an actor quite like this one, where you never leave the set as an actor. You don't like go off somewhere. There's nowhere to go really. There's no trailer or room for you. So you just pull up a chair and kind of sit and watch things going on, even if you're not involved in them. The worlds in this movie created by Wes and Adam Stockhausen were unbelievable, and like the railway line in particular, and the train tracks in the tunnel felt like it was like a mile long. I mean, when we first went in there, it was unbelievable. I've never seen a soundstage that big. This was in Berlin at Studio Babelsberg, and they had like this enormous stage, and the track like ran the length of it, and they had a real train on it. That was just one, and then the airplanes that we shot in, and Zsa Zsa's home, and the ship. I mean, I really couldn't believe it. When I was reading the script, I was wondering how we were going to do this movie, and wondering if Wes was going to do a sort of forced perspective thing or a quite two-dimensional, plane, and make it look sort of, impressionistic or something. But it was actually very immersive, and they really brought the worlds to life, and it was way bigger than I thought it would be. So it was staggering to walk onto. I personally can't wait to see it with an audience, because I think it'll be a really fun ride with an audience. I've only seen it alone with my wife in a room, and we had a lot of fun, but I think with an audience it'll just be fun to see, how it's playing, and see where people are laughing and where things become emotional, because I actually find the movie very moving. So, and especially at the end. So I think it'd be a very good physical experience to see it with an audience, and it's just I think on that world on that scale, and that on a big screen would just be fun to disappear into. It's a fun world to go into.
Wes called me up and he said, I got these 20 pages, should I send them? I said, yeah, send them. And I said, wow, I love it. And it was basically the intro of Zsa Zsa and the first sequence with his daughter. And it was just so rich in detail and original and funny and sad. It was just so layered. I mean, as an actor, you're looking for parts like this. And when they come, you just bite, and don't let go. So I was quite flattered with the part, and so it was a no-brainer, really. We meet this man who's a big tycoon businessman who, right off the bat, he's got enemies. We know he's got enemies. And in order to save his family fortune, he brings his daughter to be his heir. And we quickly find out that he's got 10 kids and his daughter is the oldest one. And we quickly find out that he's neglected his daughter. He hasn't seen her in the last maybe 10 years or so, or 6 years. And so through that, he lets her know why he summoned her, and he tells her that he's got his most important project of his lifetime, which is the Phoenician Scheme, or plan. And what it is that he's building some dams and some train tracks, and he's building this kind of like a city in the middle of the desert, kind of like maybe Las Vegas, once upon a time, something like that. It's a big project. And so he's telling her how this is going to be done, and she's doubtful about this plan and about him as well. And then suddenly his enemies start changing the game. So he has to, in order to save the family fortune, he has to lock in all the investors. And he's got about 6 of them. And so he's got to travel all over the place, and he's doing anything he can to close the deal before it's too late. You play with the best. Here we are. We have Tom Hanks, Bryan Cranston, Riz Ahmed, Jeffrey Wright, Matthew Amalric, Scarlett Johansson, Benedict Cumberbatch, and then you have Bill Murray, Willem Dafoe, F. Murray Abrams. There's so many actors that come into Hope Davis. You have so many great actors that come in to do, some of them are little parts, and everything just gets better. It's just, all the scenes get better because of the talent that, and Wes attracts, but it's also his writing. And his filmmaking. Let the inner child play. And I think as an actor, you always have to tap into that. And I think in a Wes Anderson movie, it's a great place, it's a great playground, his body of work. The team he has that I've worked over the years with him as well, his vision. And I think his writing is just extremely human. Even though these characters are bigger than life, but they're very human, and they're sad, they're funny, they're dangerous. There's so much to play in there. And maybe sometimes the best thing is to do nothing, because the writing does it for you. That I kind of learned quick. It's just let the words take me. But I think it's all of that, and also the atmosphere that he creates. He creates a very family-oriented type of atmosphere on the set and off the set. It's amazing to see the sets. It's really incredible to walk in, read something, and then go in, and then maybe see it in the storyboards, and then see it in person. Maybe seeing pictures of Rome and then going to Rome. It feels a little bit like that, where you just see a painting. You read about a painting, you see it on a photograph, and then you see it in person. And that's kind of like how it feels in a way with Wes. You read it, then you see it in the drawings, and then you actually see it three-dimensionally, and you're in it. And it's trippy. It's trippy. And it's great. It helps your interpretation. Through the picture, she will, in little moments, she will make him realize things, and make him understand things, and make him see his own faults. And in the end, it is that relationship between father and daughter that turns Sasa into a better human being. I think Sasa is always going to be a little bit of a rascal. He's always going to be a human being. But I think at the end, he gets what I think he was not aware of, but I think he was, which is he wanted to have a second chance for all the time he wasn't there for his daughter. In the end, she gives him that second chance, and he realizes that what's important is you know, family, not so much the material stuff. Even though at the end he's still trying to make money, but what's important is, in order to be happy, you just have to be happy with yourself and the ones you love and the ones that you should love. And I think that that's if there's a moral to the story, or one of them, I think that's one of them. You know, Mia, you know, she knew every line, everyone's line. You know, she was very prepared, which was nice to have an actor that is, you know, sometimes she might even correct some of my lines. And she's super talented, and you know, you know, just great. Her presence is very strong, so she was not intimidated by Jaja. And Michael is super funny. He's just super funny to be on the set, you know, and you know, he's terrific also, and also, but you know, it's funny when you're working with an actor and you have an actor that is, you know, that they're like in character or committed to the part, and it's nice to work with actors like that. You know, they're younger than me, and I've never worked with any of them, but it was a pleasure to work with both of them. And what happens is they make you better, really, and that was kind of like my experience with both of them. I just think they're terrific in the film, and it was a lot of fun. I think the movie is so rich that it's impossible to watch it one time and get it all. I think it's one of those movies that pulls you in to want to watch it again. And I've been in some movies that might be like that, and you know, I call them movies that have legs, that they will, you know, travel in time. And I think, you know, Wes has many of these films, let's face it, but this one is another one. And it's kind of like amazing seeing Wes at this stage of his career.
Seems a little bit of a no-brainer when you get an audition for a Wes Anderson project to go and do it, especially if you are somebody who really admires and has loved his work since you were 9, 12 years old, which I was and I am. They had given me a scene from a completely different project that had absolutely no bearing on what the actual script ended up being like in the slightest. So I had no idea at all what it was meant to be. No character description, nothing. But I did it and then got a call back, and went in, did a few of those. Met Wes for the first time, I think at recall number 2. And I remember I was very nervous to meet him, and then he opened the door and he was wearing pink socks and slippers, and I was not scared of him anymore. And glasses and a stripy shirt. And we just spent a lot of time talking, which was great. And then I finally got the script. Actually, I wasn't expecting to get it at all, but to my surprise, they sent it to me after they told me that they wanted me to do a chemistry read with Benicio, and it was on a timed link, and I read it, and I didn't stop reading it, and I'm a very slow reader, so that is impressive for me. And my initial thoughts were just, holy shit. Phoenician Scheme is about a man named Zsa Corda, who is one of the wealthiest, if not the wealthiest man in Europe. And over the course of a slightly undetermined amount of time, some assassination attempts have been taken against him. He has survived all of them, I think 6 plane crashes at this point in time. And he realizes after his most recent one that, okay, he needs to secure his family family assets. And in order to do that, he needs to bring back in his estranged daughter. When that happens, and when we meet Liesel and Jar Jar in the same room, we become aware of the fact that actually she has ulterior motives for meeting up with him again. She has some very long time dormant, unanswered questions, and her intention behind this meeting again is also to find some answers to those things, and thus they quest onwards to go and secure their family fortune, basically, and meet some very interesting people along the way. Michael Cera's character, Bjorn Lund, is an entomologist, which is a great word, is an entomologist who has been hired by Jar Jar to tutor him during moments of his free time, I think is actually the line. And Jar Jar has a thirst for knowledge of varying different kinds. Clearly, insects are the most recent topic of interest. And seemingly by accident, but also quite possibly because of terrible planning on the part of Jar Jar, Bjorn ends up sort of becoming the administrative secretary. And it just all sort of gets intertwined from there, because he's suddenly the administrative secretary to this mad harebrained scheme that, how could that possibly work? But yeah. So there are several stops that are made along the way. Stop number 1 is the Sacramento Consortium, comprising of Leland and Reagan, played by Tom Hanks and Bryan Cranston. And we meet them in a tunnel, which is a very good tunnel. It's a very good tunnel. And essentially this negotiation, a very unconventional negotiation, happens. But they do agree to cover some of the finances that are needed. There is also a boat. There is also, oh my goodness. Well, there's a desert, which is also a tunnel. Then there's a boat, and there's a dam as well. And then there's a very expensive hotel at the end. We're sort of everywhere in such a short amount of time. Getting to do that scene with Michael was so much fun. And we're very, very serious about it, but it's funny. It's funny. Michael's getting drunk on 3 beers, and I don't drink hard liquor as a nun, but I am seemingly fine. It's funny. And we had a lot of fun doing that and trying different things. And then watching Michael seemingly get progressively more drunk as Bjorn was one of the funniest things that has ever happened. Also, Michael ad-libbed a lot, much to the encouragement of Wes, but he would regularly just like come out with random Bjorn-isms. And there was one thing that he did in the section just before the tunnel. We're out in the desert and we meet Prince Farouk, played by Riz Ahmed, who is a gem of a human being. And I think Riz is meant to say, in reference to somebody who has been injured, oh, he didn't suffer, and Michael just completely unprompted went, oh, I think he did. And we were not expecting him to do that. So I remember looking at Riz and just then looking at the ground, but then not being able to not laugh. And then everybody was laughing, and the accent was brilliant. Oh, Michael's just hilarious. When we meet Liesel, we meet her not only in a very simple, very pared back way, but we also meet her with a very minimal lifestyle around her. Simple pleasures is her lifestyle. And her pipe, which is sort of just, a thing that she has, is replaced with a much later on, we actually don't see this until infinitely later on in the film, is replaced by this beautiful, incredible, ridiculously gorgeous pipe that was made by Dunhill with semi-precious stones in it. And it just was it was a proper corncob pipe. It was amazing. And then as she's beginning to live with Jean, becoming more and more involved in his scheme, he also replaces her normal rosary with a secular rosary, which was made by Cartier, which was terrifying to hold, but which was a beautiful, beautiful item. And I think those two objects are somewhat representative of her, not her transformation, but sort of her journey of realization about who she is and actually what it is that she wants. Working with Wes is an experience that I will never forget as long as I live. He is the kindest, most brilliant, creatively minded person that I have ever had the fortune to encounter. If I hadn't have got the job, just meeting him would have been enough. His clarity and expression of clarity around what it is that he wants is something that I have never experienced to that level before. He does many, many, many takes of things. And there is a very good reason why he does that, because he knows exactly what it is that he wants. And he knows exactly how to get those things. And at no point did I feel like I couldn't ask him a question or couldn't discuss something with him. He's amazing. He is truly the most one-of-a-kind person that I've ever had the fortune to meet.